All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and expand on this idea of the things we can do with data validation. In this case, we have our product, which is a hammer, and we have never sold a hammer for more than 20 bucks. It just hasn't happened yet, and yet people keep on messing this thing up. They put a price in here of like 22 bucks, or even worse, they'll do like $19.99, but they'll forget the decimal place, and this thing ends up being priced out at $1,999. So we're going to go ahead and put some data validation on this, and to do that, we've got the cell selected. Go up to Data and just open up the data validation, and I'll say no, not any value. I want this to be a decimal, right? And I don't even want it between, right? The problem is that people keep on putting too high of stuff in here. So I'm just going to say, hey, I want it to be less than, right? And I want it to be less than, I'm going to go ahead and hard code this in just for the heck of it here. I'm going to go, I want it to be less than 20, right? I want it to be less than 20. And say okay. Okay. There's data validation on this thing now. And now, when somebody comes in and they try and put 22 bucks in here, it says, no way, ain't going to happen, right? And it says the value entered is not valid, right? This is restricted. And so that's not, the people that keep on messing this up, these new employees that don't understand anything about this model that we built or anything, that's probably not going to help them figure out what they need to be doing here. So maybe I want to cancel that. Maybe I want to be a little more helpful with the information that I have here on the data validation. So if I come up and I do my data validation again, you can see I've got two other tabs here for input message and error alert. So maybe on the input message here, I'll just go ahead and say, if I could spell it right, I'll say hammer cost is the message, the title of the thing that I want, and I'll put here, and I'll just say that it's less than 20 bucks, right? And so less than $20, and say okay. And now, you see, when I come and somebody wants to go and put something into the cell and they click on it, when they select it, it says, hey, this is a hammer cost, right? And it's less than 20 bucks. And then, of course, they go, no, less than 20 bucks, okay. And they go and put this in, and it still won't, allow because that's actually $1,999, right? And so it won't allow that. But still, we get this stock message back that really isn't going to help anybody out. So I'll cancel that one and say, hey, we can do better than that even. We'll come up and we'll go back to our data validation. And now I'm going to go over to the error alert. And I can say it's set by default to stop, which is what it's been doing. It's been stopping us from putting invalid data in. And so here I'll put, hey, this is you're putting in too much, right? And I'll say down here, it must be less than, right, than the 20 bucks that I'm after, right? 20. Right? It must be less than 20. I'll say okay. Now when we come down here and we try and put 22 bucks in here, it says, hey, okay, must be less than $20. Now that's going to be helpful, right? They got it right here, and that's going to be helpful. Okay, they got to go back and retry and say, oh, I think I understand what they mean. I need to put $19 in here. Oh, okay. Now there's another thing we could do here also on there. I can come back over here, and another option is for me with this error alert to go ahead and not make this so rigid, not a stop, but say, hey, let's do a warning, right? And in this case, this really could, I mean, the cost could increase to 22 bucks at some point. And so, I mean, I don't foresee that happening soon, but what if? So now if they go and they go 22, this comes up and says, hey, this is too much, must be less than 20 bucks, but perhaps they know what they're doing, and I've told them to go do this or something, in which case they can go, yeah, I know that. I want to continue, yes, and it allows it, right? And so it allows them to sidestep your data validation. Hopefully they know what they're doing at that point, right? Okay. Let's take one break, and then we'll come back and we'll do the very last thing that we're going to look at with this.